Men only fear marriage if they don't trust their wife. The reality is, marriage is a good thing if you marry a good woman, which requires you, first and foremost, to be a good man. Where most men go wrong is that they do not vet or assess a woman from the get-go. And what I want you to do moving forward in your life is, when you meet a woman, you make certain that there is mutual, genuine desire, that you have the same values, and that she has the same intentions as you. No red flags. This gives you assurance that she's trustworthy so that she can be your wife. You see, marriage actually comes with quite a few benefits, which I'm going to explain in today's video. But you're only going to experience that if you and your spouse are both right for marriage. Marrying the wrong woman is not going to make a marriage worthwhile. And when we look around at our society, we have parents, grandparents, extended family members, other relatives, people we all know from work, colleagues, people we grew up with. Everywhere we look, it seems to be like everyone is either divorced or in a miserable marriage. And this gives marriage a bad name. But it's not marriage's fault. It's the men and women who are getting married to each other. And all I'm seeing is that most men and women have a knowledge gap. They settle, they have no standards, they have low self-esteem, and they are godless. And because of that, they marry wrong. And it's time to turn things around. The reason why young men and women are so afraid of marriage and commitment is because no one's teaching them how to prepare to be husbands, to be wives, what to look for in a spouse, or how marriage works. And because of that, they repeat the same miserable cycle that their screwed up parents did. And it's time for you to turn things around for your family's sake. You don't get a do-over with this. You marry right or you marry wrong. And in today's video, the aim here is to explain and showcase the benefits of marriage to give you a deeper understanding and some inspiration that marriage is worth it. So the benefits of marriage will go into intimacy, companionship, health advantages, legal and financial stability, and why it's good for children. Believe it or not, good marriages benefit children the most. And the reason why most of you are watching this video is because your parents had such a bad marriage that you're afraid of getting married yourself and you don't know where to start. But you're watching this video, so you're in the right place. So let's start off with an introduction, first and foremost. Now I want to make this clear. Ideally speaking, it's better to be married in your 20s. It just is. The older you leave it, the harder it is to find someone, because typically good men and women are already married when they're young, if they married right, which is usually the case. If you're watching this and you're 30 plus or 40s and you are serious about marriage, do not waste any time. If you're serious about it, you need to double down on your efforts. And for the young men and women watching in your 20s, don't think you've got unlimited time. Your 20s is when you should be taking action. Youth does not preclude you from becoming a husband or father. You do not need to experience much of life before you commit to marriage. Having a good spouse by your side is actually beneficial. If anything, marriage to the right woman will help you navigate the numerous pitfalls you are bound to hit and to avoid the many temptations if you were to be alone. The reason why so many young men are just so lonely is because they don't have a woman. And instead they're medicating themselves with pornography and they're secluding themselves socially so they don't meet anyone and they stay alone and they're tempted and they're struggling with all this lust, which shouldn't be if they were just married to someone they desire. And all the different struggles you face in life, especially as a young man in your 20s, even your 30s and beyond, building your wealth, building a career, having a good woman by your side would make that better. If she's not a gold digger, then you've won. You have a good woman by your side. You don't need to go through that alone. And the big lie in the modern world is that you need to experience before you get married. Experience what exactly? A 10 body count, which makes you less attractive to members of the opposite sex when you rack up a notch count? going through multiple breakups, getting maybe cheated on by being in the wrong relationship 2, 3, 4 times, going through all that heartache, all of that emotional pain, which now makes it harder for you to open up, to trust. Now you are less excited about a marriage or a commitment. You're afraid, you're holding back, you're unsure if you want to commit to someone for life. Yeah, that's what happens when you experience relationships. It's not biblical. We're not meant to experience 10 members of the opposite sex. It ruins your ability to bond. Case in point, I have a client who he's inside the Relationship Mastery course. Just recently got a great success story from him. He's never had a relationship before, 22, 23-year-old virgin. He was always worried he could never get a woman. He went through the course, applied everything I teach, and he's met a good Christian girl. He showed me the picture, beautiful Swedish girl, absolute 10 out of 10, and she absolutely adores him. She's also a virgin, also young, Christian, same values, ready to get married young and have a family. And she also has never had a relationship, and obviously she's virgin. So they both have the same values, and they haven't had all these life experiences that have ruined them. He filled in his knowledge gap, and now he's leading her well. It really is that simple, gentlemen. So please consider what a blessing it is to give your most virile years to a woman, and how beautiful it is for her to give you her most fertile years to marry and to bear children. The decision to spend your life with a godly woman at an early age means you reap the benefit of your legacy for longer. And together you get to share the journey of life, forever growing closer and serving as an example of true love for generations to come. Isn't that what it's all about? Showing your children what a good marriage is so that they can emulate that in their own life. Very few people have ever had parents that married well, parents that were in love. And this has to change. This is why everybody's so screwed up. If you don't take relationships seriously now, you'll be forced to take them seriously later on under circumstances that are unfavorable. And you'll end up just like your screwed up parents. So, let's get right into the benefits then. Intimacy and companionship, which is what everyone's looking for. And again, these benefits are for those that are happily married that choose right. This isn't for the couples that settle, or you marry someone who's, I don't know, not that into you, or just has different values completely. It's never going to work. This is for those who marry right, as God intended. When you marry well, it creates a deep-rooted connection where both the needs of the husband and wife are being fulfilled. Why? Because if you both desire each other and you think you're lucky to have the other person and you have the same things in common so you can understand each other, you're going to do everything to make the other person happy. You're going to uphold your marriage vows and vice versa. So you're going to meet each other's needs. And when both of your needs are met, guess what? It's easy to be intimate physically and emotionally. Companionship-wise, you have a great bond, a great connection. You're each other's priority. You're each other's favorite person, as it should be. Okay? So here, happily married couples often report higher levels of sexual satisfaction and physical intimacy compared to those who settle, marry wrong, or remain single. Quite self-explanatory. Number 2, happily married couples develop a deep emotional connection that fosters understanding, good communication, upholds shared values, increases vulnerability and trust. Men and women that prioritize commitment, loyalty, and trust, they are going to make it a priority. They're going to get better at communicating over time. They're going to understand the little quirks, the in and outs of their spouse. They're going to uphold their vows and the values that they share. All of this makes them open up more, easier to trust. You can share everything that's going on. You're not holding back. And men and women that marry right understand this. There's enough problems in the world. Don't make your marriage another one. You have nothing to hold back. You give it your all. And because they're upfront about their love for their spouse, they give, they receive, they have intimacy. they have companionship. And finally, happily married couples strengthen their companionship through shared experiences, spending quality time, and by supporting each other through crises and offering comfort towards each other whenever things happen, of course. And they are ready to demonstrate their commitment at all times. It really is that simple. And these are just some of the benefits that you will experience when you marry the right person. And I'm telling you from experience, having an amazing woman in your life, it's just such a blessing. There is just so much love there. You feel so connected. And what's worse is how many of you have had relationships where you've never had that. Or you've heard stories of people who were married and then got a divorce and they never had any of these benefits because they chose the wrong spouse, or they themselves just had a knowledge gap. They didn't know any better. Do you want that for yourself? You have to really take it seriously. The next up is health advantages. So obviously in marriage, which is surprising to some, not to me though, married couples are actually healthier. Their health is actually improved in many ways. All the studies show us that happily married couples have increased longevity. Just having that special bond with someone you trust and love, it gives you a reason to keep fighting, to keep moving forward. You have something to live for that's bigger than yourself. And we often see it, people who are single and unmarried, they die younger. And yes, there'll be someone crying to me in the comments about, oh, but there's people who are married and they die young. Yeah, some people have other health problems, sure. But with health, oftentimes there's a placebo there, emotionally, mentally. Being around a good woman that treats you well, it lowers your stress. There's less cortisol. You're more peaceful, you're more relaxed around her. That does wonders to your health. This is why there is reported high levels of overall life satisfaction when you're with a good spouse, which is a health benefit. Because people often say, I'll die for my loved ones. But when you really love them, you live for them. You're going to be healthier for your spouse. This is when good husbands and wives keep each other accountable and they take good care of their health or their lifestyle. They have, if any of them has an addiction or is intaking unhealthy substances, the other one is going to push them to improve, to stop doing that. Which is why couples that live the longest, they live healthy lives together. They foster healthy habits. So being in good company with a good spouse is so beneficial. And even regarding like mental health, happily married couples report fewer mental health problems than those who are not married. Why? Because there's less problems. Because it's a safer environment. Oftentimes, all this depression and all this misery that we see from people is because they're alone. And in our modern world, when people are single, we train them to be selfish, to be out for themselves. But when you're married, it's different. You have to be selfless. You have to be giving and caring. And because of that, when you're married to the right woman, and vice versa, right? She's happily married to you, you're going to impact each other's health. Because you're giving, you're alive, you're doing more. You have a reason to keep going. So you're just going to be healthier overall. We also, hear stories of couples who have been married for many years. And when one of them passes away, the other one is so heartbroken, they die within hours, weeks, or soon after. They literally die of a broken heart because the bond was so strong. And when they lose their spouse, they lose their health. They lose their support. They lose everything they invested into emotionally. And that's just the power of just becoming one flesh and living life together and growing all together. You really become so close to the other person that when you lose them, you lose a big chunk of yourself. And you often lose your will to live. And that happens to so many people. So it shows us just how important our health is and how it's really linked to our relationships. That's why losing a loved one or losing a pet even, you grieve and it hurts so much, and people develop, their health becomes very fragile in those moments or times of grief, right? So there are many health advantages, right, of being married to the right woman, guys. You're just going to live a longer life, a more peaceful life. And that, again, we covered it earlier, the intimacy, the companionship, it all translates. It's all connected. I've seen so many men that they're very depressed, they're very lonely, they're very miserable, and they just don't have a spouse. As it says in Genesis 2:18, it's not good that a man should be alone. You need to be with a woman, especially if you want to raise a family. This is what we're made for. We're social beings. And having that sense of human connection to a spouse is going to improve your health. Especially when you have a good marriage, when you're really connected intimately, you're going to be even healthier. Right? So even couples report they have stronger immune systems, they have, lower levels of stress. Just overall, you're going to be healthier. Okay, in a good marriage. It's a good benefit to have. And then there are legal and financial benefits that happen as well. Good marriages do create certain advantages, such as more wealth and overall stable finances for the family. Why? Well, number one, you can Google this yourself. Married couples, depending on the country you live in, of course, but overall married couples have a plethora of tax benefits. They have inheritance rights, property rights, and there's even access to spousal benefits. Some companies even give men paternal leave here in Europe, which is quite amazing to see. And there's a lot of benefits that come with that. And even looking at it through a historical lens, marriage has always given family names legitimacy. All these kids nowadays being born out of wedlock, half brothers, half sisters, parents splitting up, another divorce, another marriage. You create a lot of bastardized children, and it ruins bloodlines, it ruins family names. So even to build a good legacy, having a well-ordered marriage, it does wonders for you legally, and also for your wealth, financially speaking. Because moving on to this one, marriage-minded men actually make more money on average because they have a reason to work hard and support their families, compared to those men who are single, modernized and selfish. They live a consumerist lifestyle. They're out partying or living a very degenerate lifestyle, you could say. Especially nowadays, since so many single men are just waiting to get married when they're older. What are they doing throughout their 20s? Living for themselves, oftentimes. And you can't undo a decade of selfish behavior by just quickly jumping into a marriage. It takes time to change that. So it's like you have to get your foundation right. You have to get your values right. And a lot of men, they feel like they lack purpose, they lack direction. Why do you think back in the day, young men and women married young? That gave them the direction they needed. If, back in the day, you were a young man and you were married, there was no being lazy, letting the days go by or living for yourself. No. Now you have to live a self-sacrificial life, a selfless life for your wife, for your children, or your future children if you're planning to have them. And that's what gets the fire burning for a man to provide, to protect, to lead. That fire is not going to be burning if you're single and you're just living for yourself, is it? There's a different kind of pressure and there's a different kind of joy when you get to provide for your woman. And for children, it's just a different type of blessing. So all the stats show, you can research it yourself, that married men make more money than single men, than unmarried men, because they have a reason to. And that's not just you anymore, it's your family. So that actually benefits the financial stability of your family, legally too, of course. And also when it comes to women, to the wives, how does it benefit them? Of course, they get provided for, they get taken care of by a good man. And a lot of men are afraid, what if they get married and the woman takes everything, right? Well, if you properly vet a woman, it's not happening. But a good wife is going to be frugal, meaning she's content and happy to live within your means. This is what good wives do. They're not consumerists. They're not, crazy shoppers and spenders. They're very grateful and appreciative for what you provide, and they don't overstep those boundaries. And in many cases, wives who worked before getting married, or they have an inheritance, they often add that wealth to the family. Or husbands and wives can start businesses together as well. And so in many ways, good wives find different ways to assist, to contribute, and they do all they can to meet the needs of their husbands and children. So a good wife is going to be probably the best asset you will ever have, because she will make or break your finances. So having a good wife is a benefit in marriage. And ladies, having a good husband is a good benefit for you in marriage, because he'll take care of you. And you inspire him to provide for you. Because for a feminine woman, a masculine man is going to find joy in providing for that woman. And guys, for a woman, if she sees that you're a good, honorable man and she wants to be married to you and live within your means, she's going to be grateful for everything that you give her, for your provision, for your protection, and she'll assist you and nurture you and find different ways to serve you. So it's a blessing. Everybody wins. And this creates more of a stable family environment for your marriage. And then finally, marriage benefits children. It is good for the children. Now, most people, when they think of marriage, they think the priority is kids. Children really should be a byproduct of a successful marriage. You don't make a marriage vow to your children. You make a marriage vow to your wife. Husband and wife become one flesh. You're not one flesh with your children. When your children grow old and leave home and live their lives, it's still husband and wife at home. And you can't just stay in it for the kids or do it for the kids. You do it for your wife. And ladies, do it for your husband. Husband and wife come first, children come second. Yes, when children are young, they have different needs that need to be addressed and taken care of 100%. But never forget your vows. And understand that the benefits of a happy marriage go beyond how they affect husband and wife. Spouses that get it right understand that prioritizing their marriage is what creates a well-ordered family and a supportive environment for the emotional well-being of children. Not the other way around. Couples who get it wrong, they put the kids first and the wife starts neglecting the husband. Or the husband puts the kids first and starts neglecting the wife. Well, we have young kids, so I'll just put my spouse to the side. Wrong. Your spouse has to still come first. And when husband and wife focus on meeting each other's needs, setting time aside for quality time, right? Couples who play together, stay together, they connect, they bond, they uphold everything that I mentioned earlier, right? On intimacy and companionship, they, quality time, they support each other, they offer comfort, they demonstrate their commitment. When they uphold their values, when they treat each other well, when husband and wife consistently date and romance each other, the marriage stays, the sex life stays, the intimacy stays, the connection stays. And who benefits most from that? Children. Because when the children get older, they will start to see who mum and dad really are. And we all know what it's like to see mum and dad settle and have a shitty marriage at home. It's the elephant in the room and everybody can see it. So understand, these are the benefits for children. Children that are raised by happily married parents are less likely to be poor, for the reasons stated above. Children that are raised by happily married parents are less likely to experience unnecessary hardship compared to being raised by single or dysfunctional parents. Why? Simple. Alcoholics, cheaters, abusers, those are dysfunctional parents who do not have a happy marriage. Even though the spouse gets affected, the kids will be affected sooner or later. So happily married parents that are stable, that love each other, that treat each other well, the man's the head of the home, the woman's the heart of the home, what happens? The children benefit from that. The parents have so much love to give because they're giving to each other, they can give even more love to their kids. How many of you watching had a father or a mother that wasn't really present or disconnected because they were focused on other responsibilities, or they were trying to fix their shitty marriage problems which never got fixed? They could never get to your problems, could they? Because they had their own. So if parents have their own lives in order and they're working properly together as a team, as husband and wife, and they are as companions fixing their problems, and they're delegating different obligations based on their roles, and they're doing everything right, they can always sit down and be present and engage with their children and make certain that their children's needs are met, because their own needs are met first. How can you take care of others if you haven't taken care of yourself? Haven't taken care of yourself first? And this is where so many people get married wrong. They focus on, I want to be a father, I want to be a mother. You should be a husband first. You should be a wife first. And you should be madly in love first. You should trust each other and honor each other and get your intimate marriage life sorted first, then focus on your kids. Kids come second. Husband and wife come first. That's the order. Second benefit. Children that witness love between their parents become less vulnerable to suicide, self-harm, identity problems, emotional trauma, and self-esteem issues. Self-explanatory for some, not for others, but this is well documented. Children that grow up in stable homes because mum and dad love each other, they're going to grow up to love themselves. They're going to have more confidence. With parents that are present with their children, they're going to lead their children in the right direction. They're going to steer their children away from evil, raise them up in the way they shall go. So their kids grow up relatively normal. And finally, children that are raised by happily married parents are more likely to have a positive attitude towards monogamy and display greater success in forming friendships and lasting relationships in their own lives as they come of age. And they tend to blossom into emotionally stable adults. This is extremely important. I know so many men and women who grew up in broken homes, and they're like mid-20s, late 20s, and they are so afraid of marriage because they saw their parents have a crap marriage, or their mum was a bad mum, or dad was a bad dad, and they're just bitter, they haven't healed from it, and they're just too afraid. But the men and women I know, who the few of them who grew up in good homes where mum and dad love each other, they look at marriage and they smile. They look at the idea of commitment and they're excited for it. They can't wait to find a special someone because they have a good blueprint from mum and dad, and they're ready to emulate that in their own lives. But it's not over for you. If you didn't have that growing up and you don't know what blueprint to follow, I have it. My parents didn't have the best marriage. They settled, they stayed for years, and it's not the best. But I chose to do it differently, to do it the right way. And I took it upon myself. It took me about 10 years to learn all this stuff. I dedicated my life to it because I never wanted to end up like that. And now I have an amazing woman in my life, and I teach other men how to master relationships, how to prepare to be a husband, and how to find a good wife. Because once you have this sorted, you can teach it to your children and your children's children, and everybody benefits. Communities benefit, society benefits. And you send out into the world sons and daughters with a healthy self-esteem, with a strong identity, with good morals, ready to be husbands and wives, and have families of their own. God gets glorified, society's at a better place, and you can smile knowing that you did the right thing as a parent. Everybody wins. So if you are serious about mastering relationships, filling in your knowledge gap, and preparing for marriage, join Relationship Mastery. I'll leave the link down below in the description. But with that said, guys, these are the benefits for marriage. Children will benefit from good parents. Legal, financial stability, there's health advantages, intimacy and companionship. You're just going to have so much fun. You get to grow old together. You get to share life experiences together. It's just such a blessing. Committed for life. The younger you start, the sooner you get to reap the benefits. That's all I've got to say. With that said, hope you all have a wonderful day. God bless all of you and your families, and I'll see you all in the next one.